Poland closed parts of its airspace and deployed fighter jets. Its armed forces issued a statement saying, in connection with the activity of Russia's long-range aviation carrying out strikes on the territory of Ukraine, Polish and allied aircraft have begun operating in our airspace. QRA fighter pairs have been scrambled and ground-based air defense and radar reconnaissance systems have reached the highest state of alertness. These actions are preventive and aimed at securing the airspace and protecting citizens, especially in areas adjacent to the threatened regions. Well, Nathalie Tocci is director of the Institute of International Affairs in Italy. She joins us now from Rome. Good to have you with us. So why are we seeing Russia step up the wave of attacks?
Well, I mean, I think we've basically seen this already happening time and time again. Essentially, it is now, I think, crystal clear to everyone, in case anyone had any doubt, that Russia has no intention of ending this war, despite having basically been offered pretty much everything from President Trump on a silver platter and a red carpets in Anchorage. Essentially, Vladimir Putin is not interested. And so I think, what these attacks are signaling are basically no matter what President Trump says, which tends not to be then followed up in terms of what he does, but certainly no matter what Europeans do, Russia will carry on with this war.
We've seen NATO countries complain of Russian violations of their airspace. Is NATO getting close to a situation where it engages directly in the conflict?
Well, I mean, the question really is, firstly, why is Russia engaging in these provocations? And I think it's engaging in these provocations precisely to try and see whether actually NATO still exists, right? And pushing the limits further and further. I think what we can say is that whereas the level of confidence in terms of whether the United States within NATO would actually come to the defense of its European allies, that is very much up in question. I think that what we're beginning to see is that a Europeanized NATO is actually stepping up. And I think this is essentially because Europeans more and more understand that European security begins with, but doesn't end with Ukraine, and that the threat that Russia poses is a much broader one.
So the European side of NATO stepping up, you said. What about the US position? Are we seeing, or have we seen so far, any change in actual US policy since Donald Trump made that statement at the United Nations that Ukraine can win back all its territory?
I mean, to be honest, I think that we should be looking at the deeper currents rather than the waves on the surface, right? I mean, so not really listening to what Donald Trump says, but actually observing what he is doing. Because frankly speaking, he says one thing one day and exactly the opposite the next. I think, though, what we're beginning to see, so I say this simply to say that the fact that now he seems to be siding with Ukraine, I wouldn't personally take as any kind of real indication that there's a change in US policy. Where I do think that essentially US policy is in practice landing is in a situation in which the United States is disengaging from European security, is disengaging from Ukraine, but is happy to continue selling weapons to Europeans that they can then pass on to Ukraine to the extent that Europeans do not currently produce everything that is needed in order to defend themselves and to defend Ukraine.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you for your thoughts and analysis on that, Nathalie Tocci.
Thank you.
From the Institute of International Affairs.
Don't miss out to get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insight. Like, share, stay ahead.